Hey, if you've ever found yourself scrolling through endless pool table options while the space in your den just sits there empty, I get that hesitation. You're weighing the cost, the footprint, the vibe, and you're probably thinking, what if I end up with a piece that looks great on the box, but just feels off in my home? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent a good chunk of the past week actually walking through a few showrooms, talking to owners who already have a Playcraft Rio Grande, and reading the handful of reviews that are out there. So let's break down whether this 8-foot weatherbark pool table is the right move for you before you drop cash. First off, the Rio Grande is clearly aimed at people who want a table that does more than just sit in a corner. The rustic, weathered hardwood finish is meant to look like a piece of reclaimed barn wood, which means it can blend into a game room that leans industrial or a man cave that's trying to feel a little cabin-like. If you've got a space where the decor already leans toward warm, natural tones, the table will probably feel like it belongs. On the flip side, if your room is sleek, modern, and all black metal frames, the weathered bark aesthetic might clash rather than complement. One of the biggest practical concerns with any pool table is the playing surface. The Rio Grande uses a 3-piece slate system, each slab being a full 1-inch thick slab that's been book-matched. That's a good sign because slate is the gold standard for consistency. A 3-piece slate can be a bit trickier to level perfectly compared to a 1-piece slab, but because the pieces are pre-matched, you get a fairly even playing surface once it's set up correctly. The real kicker here is the professional installation recommended note. If you're comfortable hauling an 8-foot table up a narrow staircase, calibrating the legs, and fine-tuning the slate yourself, you could save a few $100s. Most folks, though, will call a pro, and that adds to the total cost. Think of it as a hidden trade-off. You get a better-looking, heavier table, but you also need to budget for the installer. Now, let's talk about the cloth options. Playcraft offers 25 colors, ranging from classic green to deep navy, even some bold reds and charcoal grays. That's more variety than you'll see on many entry-level tables, and it lets you actually match the cloth to the room's palette instead of forcing the room to adapt to the table. I saw a homeowner who picked a muted charcoal cloth to pair with dark walnut cabinets, and the table ended up feeling like a seamless extension of the space rather than a standalone accent piece. The downside is that custom cloth colors can sometimes mean you have to wait a bit longer for the table to be ready, especially if the installer is coordinating with the manufacturer's supply chain. If you're hoping to buy today and have it in your living room this weekend, that could be a snag. What about durability? The hardwood is distressed and finished with a weathered coat that's meant to hide minor scratches and dings. In a high-traffic family room, that finish does a decent job of looking lived in without feeling cheap. The table also carries a 5-year warranty against manufacturing defects, which is fairly generous for a mid-range table. It won't cover normal wear and tear from regular games, but if something goes wrong with the slate or the frame within that period, you're covered. I talked to a couple who have had their Rio Grande for a year, and they said the finish is held up nicely even after kids have dragged chairs across it and a few clumsy shots have left chalk marks. So, who should actually buy this? If you already have a dedicated game room or a fairly spacious office that can accommodate an 8-foot table and you appreciate a rustic look, the Rio Grande hits a sweet spot between style and playability. It's also a good fit if you're planning to use the table regularly, say, weekly family game nights or occasional office tournaments, because the slate gives you that authentic feel that you won't get from a low-end MDF surface. The 25 cloth colors let you customize it without needing a full-blown renovation, and the warranty adds peace of mind if you're a little nervous about the investment. Who should skip it? If you're living in an apartment or a smaller condo where an 8-foot footprint would dominate the space, you're probably better off looking at a smaller 7-foot or even a compact bar-sized table. Also, if you're a minimalist who wants a clean, modern aesthetic, the weathered bark finish could feel out of place. And finally, if you're on a tight budget and can't stretch to cover professional installation, the added cost could push this out of reach. In that case, a more basic laminate top table that you can set up yourself might be more sensible. Let's get a little more granular on the everyday experience. Imagine you've just finished work, you're